Indigenous Rights Radio, because knowledge is power.
UNESCO is undertaking a global study on indigenous media to analyze challenges and opportunities for its advancement. The study, based on the global survey and the media monitoring, will provide recommendations for implementing Article 16 of the UN Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous Peoples and supports indigenous peoples' right to establish their own media. During a 2-day expert meeting and media partnership forum on indigenous peoples and the media held at UNESCO's headquarters in Paris, Cultural Survival spoke with an advisor of communication and information of UNESCO, who was one of the key persons in conducting of this global study, and asked her how this study supports indigenous media and indigenous communities worldwide.
I'm Irmgarda Kasinskaite-Buddeberg. I'm advisor for communication and information at UNESCO, working at headquarters in Paris. And yesterday and today we were meeting for expert meeting and media partnership meeting here in Paris, where we brought together a number of leaders from indigenous media regulators, public service broadcasters, and colleagues from UNESCO and other international organizations together to discuss how the Article 16 of United Nations Declaration on Indigenous Peoples' Rights could be implemented. What are the recommendations, what we could put forward for the implementation of the action plan? And this work was done in the context of the recommendation to conduct a study, which was put forward in 2023 by United Nations Permanent Forum on Indigenous Issues, which requested UNESCO at that time to conduct a study, first time actually at global scale, to analyze what are the key challenges, what are the key opportunities, and what are the future actions that could be taken to strengthen indigenous media and to establish more closer partnership relationships with public service media and as well other partners. So this is why today we are very happy to conclude this meeting with such a group of people who came from different countries and who elaborated a number of recommendations which we could include in this study, and we'll present them next April to the Permanent Forum for adoption. We began our work last year when we've learned what the Permanent Forum requested UNESCO to conduct a study. So we established a working group last year, including a special rapporteur, a number of international media organizations, including those which are run by indigenous media experts themselves, university network, and many other partners who were involved in discussions how the methodology should be established, which way to take forward. As this is a global study, we needed to adjust certain strategies how to collect data, and the working group was extremely instrumental in helping us, I would say, to put a robust methodology. So we began with global literature review, which we conducted together with University of Griffith from Australia, and we identified significant gaps in academic literature, in policy, regulation frameworks that concerns indigenous media, and it became very clear that there are a number of very, I would say, small-scale, fragmented research projects which are implemented. We are very significant for understanding better how the indigenous communities communicate, what are the processes in place, how the media is established, what are the internal tribal structures, legal instruments or frameworks. And one of the conclusions was that we need a global survey which would bring together more voices, would provide opportunities for indigenous media and mainstream media to express their views. And we launched earlier this year a global survey where, based on the literary review analysis, we put forward a very, very solid and I would say very comprehensive survey instrument. And we are very happy that today we have more than 70 countries, indigenous media, reporting and replying. And we have over 40 countries where the public service media in particular provided very responses. Based on that, we as well, for this study, we are conducting a media monitoring. And in order to do this in a methodologically appealing way, we design as well a model how to actually carry out this media monitoring. So it is an important part of our experimental, what I would call it, work to identify, to analyze and to understand better what is the mainstream media, what are the issues what are covered, what are the challenges, and what are the thematic areas probably maybe not reflected well enough. And we see it very clearly what, for instance, one article published on climate change and traditional knowledge, issues related to violence against indigenous girls, could be republished by hundreds of other media outlets. That means that if one article, we can reach a huge audience thanks to the digital technology today. And obviously today we met for elaboration of the recommendations, which will as well will be included in the study. And what it was important as well to hear the voice, to hear the stories from indigenous media. So yesterday we had a session dedicated to the identification of case studies, and I would call it case studies as good practices on indigenous media. What are the policies in place, what editors, managers put in place, both in indigenous media and mainstream media. And those case studies will be included as good practices in the study to illustrate what do we have in terms of information, what we collected and could be used by many other partners. It's true that every time when we have new hope, I would say not only hope, but as well it helps us to meet each other, to come with joint shared ideas, to identify new opportunities, maybe what we were not able to identify or to implement alone. And to meet the expectations means working together. Your expectations are my expectations, and my expectations are expectations of many other ones. So obviously, international organization like UNESCO, we are committed to promote freedom of expression and access to information for indigenous people. So we have to work together in order to meet expectations. This study aims to raise awareness, first of all, about the issues, what we identified during those 2 years what we are working on the study. And that's probably the first important evidence to the governments that indigenous media is an important actor in media landscape. We would like to see what there are measures taken to strengthen indigenous media around the world, and it benefits everyone. So this is first step, and governments, of course, will make appropriate decisions and take appropriate measures based on evidence what the study will provide. So it is a first step. We cannot expect things will happen quickly or rapidly, but giving conclusions, providing recommendations how the Article 16 could be implemented, we would expect that there would be some follow-up actions taken at different levels.
For more information on the indigenous people's rights, visit cas.org and follow Cultural Survival on Facebook, Instagram, and X.